to the Vedic culture, a lady, whatever physical appearance one may or may not have, if they are chaste and noble in their character, they are considered beautiful. And even if a person's body is very ugly, if they're a scholar, they're considered beautiful. And the beauty of a Brahmin is the quality of forgiveness. We see this as a constant thing. In the Christian religion, Jesus, as he was being crucified, one of the last things he did is he prayed to God for the people who were torturing him and killing him. My Father, please forgive them. He was asked by his disciples earlier, according to our scripture, it says you can forgive a person if they misused you 7 times. What do you say about that? He said, I say you forgive them if they misuse you 70 times 7 times. Sripad Ramanujacharya, Yadava Prakash, tried to kill him. He forgave him and ultimately accepted him as a disciple. A high priest at a temple wanted to murder him and put poison in Charanamrit. Ramanuja knew it, and he drank it anyway and forgave him and delivered them. Nityananda Prabhu, he was beaten on the head with the intent to kill him by Jagai and by Madhai. And he prayed from his heart of hearts that they be forgiven. And Thakur Haridas, beaten through 22 marketplaces with the intent to kill him. The whole time he was just praying for their forgiveness. These are extreme examples. But they appear in such extreme ways just to show us that whatever we have to forgive people for is very petty. Why can't we do it? In forgiving, we are forgiven. Without forgiveness, it's practically impossible to sustain family relationships. It's practically impossible to sustain real friendships. Because people always make mistakes. What to speak of remain together as a spiritual society? Srila Prabhupada, our Gurudev, the way he was able to organize this society is because he was an ocean of unlimited forgiveness. While at the same time, very uncompromisingly, presenting the truth. He presented the truth. He expected to help us. He would sometimes chastise us, but ultimately, he was always willing to forgive and give us another try with love and compassion. That's our qualification. The only qualification any living entity has to approach the Lord is the forgiveness of the Lord and the great souls. And if we can't do that for others, then what is the possibility of our receiving it? So Jamadagni gave this very beautiful. He said that forgiveness, it is like the illuminating sun in the character of a Brahman. And the Acharyas teach us that Brahman is not just birth. Brahman is by quality. Wherever people have this quality, that is Brahminical nature. Haridas was untouchable by caste consideration. But because of that forgiveness, because of that devotion, because of that complete attachment to the chanting of the holy names, during the Shraddha Patra, Advaitacharya respected him as the greatest Brahman on earth. Jamadagni told Parashurama, because you have done this, you have transgressed the principle of forgiveness, you have to atone for your offense. For 1 year you should go to all holy places. Parashurama was very humble. He said, let it be so. And he traveled around to holy places, doing puja, doing japa, doing meditation, doing seva. He came back a year later. And one day he was out with his brothers, Kartaviryajuna's sons. They decided to get revenge. Jamadagni was all alone with Renuka. They took the opportunity to kill him. Renuka was pleading with them, please, this is my husband. Don't make me a widow. What has he done? Spare his life. And right in front of his own wife, they severed his head. She cried, Rama, oh Rama, 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 please come, please come. Parashurama and his brothers were a distance away when they heard their mother crying. Like the wind, they rushed to the spot, and when they saw the father dead, at that point, Parashurama decided, enough is enough. These Kshatriyas, by name only, due to their arrogance, their pride, and their self-centeredness, see how they are living against all the principles of Dharma, and they're exploiting the world. And he took that axe back up and traveled the world and annihilated these people because he could see they were sinful, selfish, arrogant, and envious people ruling the world. And in a place called Samantapaja, which is in Kurukshetra, he made 9 lakes. And then, now he was the ruler of the whole world. Because every ruler he defeated. He performed a yajna with very, very pure-hearted Brahmins. And during the yajna, he put his father's head back on the body and made him alive again. Harival. So Jamadagni was very happy. And he remembered everything. And he became one of the 7 great rishis. After the yajna, it is the honorable thing to do to invoke auspiciousness and blessings, to do seva. You see, to receive blessings, it's not just a matter of give me blessings. You can't demand blessings. Blessings spontaneously spring from the heart of a great soul when they are pleased with us. And people are pleased by our service attitude. So Parashurama wanted the blessings of the sages. He gave to some of the sages and priests the northern direction, the southern, the western, the eastern. Then he gave Kashyapa Muni everything in the middle. He gave everything away he had. Small price to get a blessing. Because blessings connect us to the divine. There's nothing so priceless as a true blessing from a saint. But then he resumed, put down his chopper, and he wanted to find a place where he could meditate. But he already gave away everything. And you never take back what you give away. That is not a noble thing to do. So with Kashyapa Muni and the other sages' permission, for him to have a place to do his meditation and his tapasya, he had to create something that wasn't already there on this earth. So with their blessings, he took his chopper, Parasa, and threw it into the Arabian Sea. It was called a different thing at those days. Threw it into the ocean, and by his own powers, wherever it landed, from that place to where he was on the shore, land arose. And the land that came out from the sea is Kerala and much of Karnataka. And therefore it is called Parashurama Kshetra. And if you go to Udupi, there is a place close to Udupi where Parashurama is said to have thrown his axe from. So now I will begin the class. Now that we know where we are. The Ananta Padmanabha temple is one of the most prominent temples in all of India. It's considered one of the 108 Vaishnava temples, one of the 7 moksha stalas, wherein one can achieve the perfection of liberation, and one of the 6 Narayan stalas. We read about this temple in the Srimad Bhagavatam. It describes after when the battle of Kurukshetra was going on, Lord Balaramji went on a pilgrimage because he didn't want to take sides. He was very impartial. He liked everyone, but he didn't like when people didn't do things right. So he went on a pilgrimage. It says he went to Kanyakumari, and then he went to the abode of Ananta Padmanabha. And Nityananda Prabhu did the same. And 500 years ago, just about this time of the year, Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu from Kanyakumari went to the Adikeshav temple, went to the hills in this area where Agastya Muni is said to be forever living, and then went to the Ananta Padmanabha temple, where for 3 or 4 days he spent before the beautiful darshan of Ananta Padmanabha, chanting and dancing to the kirtan of the Holy According to the Brahmanda Purana, the story of this temple is revealed. Somewhere in the area of Karnataka, there was a sage named Divakar. And every day, he performed puja to the Supreme Lord. One day, his beloved Lord, Vishnu, disguised himself as a very beautiful little child, boy, who was playing. He attracted the heart of Divakar like no one else. Every day that little boy came. And every day Divakar's love was growing and growing and growing. Who is this child? One day the little child told him, I have no mother, no father, and I have no home of residence. I'm just all alone wandering around. Divakar said to the small child, I'll take care of you. Stay with me. The child said, I'll stay with you if you promise me that you will never chastise me for anything I do. As soon as you chastise me, I will leave. He said, I promise I will never chastise you. This boy was very naughty. But because of the love, he was Vishnu. He didn't know he was Vishnu, but he was Vishnu. Because of Divakar's love, he was in ecstasy to see this naughtiness. But the child really tested him. He did some very, very naughty things. And when it was really becoming intolerable, from ecstasy, he went into the mode of restraining himself. One day he was doing his puja on the altar. He was very alarmed. His shalagram shila was gone. Where could it be? He was searching all over his hermitage. Then he found the little boy was sucking on shalagram in his mouth. Divakar didn't have time to think about this. This was just impossible for him. How could this little boy he's doing this purposely just to make me angry. He's eating my shalagram. And he chastised him. And the boy gave him his shalagram back and said, now I'm leaving because you broke your promise. I'm leaving. And he ran. And Divakar was so upset he started running after him, and the boy ran faster and he ran faster. And as the boy was walking, his waist bells and anchor bells were tinkling such sweet music. It was charming his heart. He couldn't live without this child. He said, please come back, please. And the child said, no, you broke your promise, I'm leaving. But if you ever want to see me again, you should look for me in the Ananta forest. Then the child disappeared. He was searching everywhere. He spent the rest of his life looking for this Ananta forest. He never heard of such a place. He was walking, asking everyone. He came all the way down to the southernmost part of Kerala. Which is today Tiruvananthapuram. Searching. Where is my child? Where is Ananta forest? He came to a village where this very simple tribal lady was chastising her son. You are so naughty. You are doing things so bad. Next time you do this, I'm going to throw you into the Ananta forest. When he heard that, he became very, very enlivened. Now please understand, he was a sannyasi, a swami, a sage. And he approached this lady and said, I'll give you all blessings, but tell me, where is this Ananta forest? She said, I know where the Ananta forest is. She told him how to get there. She said, but it's very dark. So he had a single wick to make a flame to try to see. He went into the Ananta forest, searching, where is my child? Where is my child? Suddenly, he heard the tinkling of the waist bells and the anchor bells. He went into ecstasies, tears filled his eyes. Where is? Suddenly, an ilupa tree, gigantic tree, fell to the ground with a massive crash. And from the tree, an irradiant effulgence blinded Divakar. When the effulgence flashed by, he saw, manifested from the tree, was the deity of Ananta Padmanabha. But the tree really expanded. The Murti, his head was in one village, his feet were in another village, and his waist was in the Ananta forest. According to records, he was approximately 18 kilometers long. This was his child. He wanted to do puja, to worship the Lord of his life. When the child left him, he understood that he was actually Vishnu. And now he had manifested in this form. He wanted to make an offering from a tree. He took an unripe mango. And then he grabbed a coconut shell and made a little plate and put the salty mango in the coconut shell and offered it with love and devotion. And the Lord accepted it because it was offered from the heart. Divakar asked the Lord that, I want to worship you and do puja for you, but it's very difficult. You're so big. And how will it'll take a whole day just to circumambulate you. So please become smaller. Right before his eyes, the deity of Ananta Padmanabha, he became the size that we see today. Divakar had a danda, and the Lord became the size of 3 of those dandas. And today when you go to the Ananta Padmanabha temple, there's 3 altars. One altar you see his face. It's beautiful, beautiful. In the Yoga Nidra. In the center altar is his waist and his chest. And Lord Brahma, Padmanabh, is manifesting from a lotus flower sprouting from his navel. And on the third altar is his feet. How many of you during our yatra have been there? Please raise your hands. I'm sorry, it was about 6 or 7 hours driving back and forth. But you'll forget the ride, but you'll never forget the darshan. Whatever austerities to do something holy, those austerities, they come, they go, we forget. But the experience of the darshan, the experience of the blessing, the experience of the seva that we receive there and we offer there is forever, eternal, enshrined within the heart of a devotee. Since that time, many great kings, they made the capital of the entire Shera dynasty, Travancore, or Tiruvananthapuram. There was one particular king. His name was Martandavarma. He accepted that Ananta Padmanabha is the king of all kings. Now, it was the tradition from the beginning of the great kings of the Chera dynasty to consider the Lord the master, the proprietor. Krishna tells in the 5th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Bhoktaram jagatapasam sarvalokamaheshwaram suhridam sarvabhutanam gyatva mam shanti mrichchati. If you want to attain peace, it's not through various political diplomatic negotiations. That could create some temporary peace, but real peace has to come from one's own heart. And that is possible when we accept that the one Supreme Lord is the supreme enjoyer of everything. And we are meant for his enjoyment. Sarvaloka Maheshwaram. The Supreme Lord is the proprietor of everything, all material and spiritual worlds. And we are the trustees. And that the Supreme Lord, we can put our complete faith, our complete hope that he has eternally the best loving, well-wishing friend of all living beings. And therefore we can take shelter and find true peace. So these great kings of the past, they were Rajarshis or Rajarishis. They were saintly kings. They were enlightened beings. And they were leading the kingdom into enlightenment. The Chera dynasty is coming in the line of Kaustuba, the jewel worn by the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself. And it has been tradition since timeless history that the king twice a day, every day, comes before Ananta Padmanabh with his family and ministers, offers prostrated obeisances, and then reads a report of everything going on in the kingdom, whatever news is important. And from that time, all the great kings were known. They called themselves the title Padmanabha Das, the servant of Padmanabha. Because they knew, I'm the king for a few years, but eventually I'm going to die. So Padmanabh's the real king. We are all here in your service. And because of that spirit, everyone was united in the kingdom. One such king who lived in the 18th century, King Martandavarma, he made it official. He came before the deity with his family, with his ministers. He put the crown at the crown of the king at the feet of Ananta Padmanabh. And the umbrella and the yak-tail whisks, which were all royal insignias. And then he made an official legal document saying the deed for the entire state of Travancore is the property of Ananta Padmanabha, as long as the sun and the moon lasts. And my family are simply the trustee servants of Ananta Padmanabha. And that because he put that in legal document, even the British had to honor that. That Vishnu is the king of this village. It stood in court on many occasions. It was indisputable. With your permission, I'd like to tell you the story of another great king of the Chera dynasty. Perhaps the greatest. This king really ruled in the spirit of Lord Ramchandra, Ram Raja. His name was Kulshekhar-Alwar. There was a great king named Dhritavratha who had no child. He worshipped the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Narayan, with his heart and soul, to send a child who would rule the kingdom and lead everyone to the path of bhakti. The Alwar Kulshekhar was born. He was a gifted boy. He was sent by the Lord himself to this world. Incredible intelligence. He learned the knowledge of everything it took to rule the kingdom. He became a powerful warrior, expert at fighting with weapons, expert at diplomacy. He was so fair and so just in the way he ruled his citizens that the weak people, the poor people, were never afraid. They were never without anyone. They felt always protected and empowered by their king. And the wealthy people felt completely empowered as long as they were using their wealth and their powers for a just cause. And anyone who was arrogant, anyone who was exploitive, the king gave them no facility to exercise those lower tendencies. His might was historical. He actually ruled over all the three major kingdoms of South India. The Chola dynasty, whose capital is in Kanchipuram. The Pandya dynasty, whose capital is in Madurai. And the Chera dynasty, Travancore. Historically, there's a separate king. And historically, they're fighting. But not only the might and the power of his strength and his wisdom, but all the three kingdoms wanted him to rule. He had everything. He was the ultimate success story materially. But by the grace of God, he wasn't satisfied. As he was growing, he was thinking, I have everything, but I have nothing. From sattva guna, when we do good, our heart becomes very receptive to God's grace. Of the three gunas, sattva guna, raja guna, tama guna, sattva guna opens the doors to enlightenment. Rajaguna, Tamaguna, passion and ignorance, they blind us from that enlightenment. Even though kings have to work so hard and deal with so many worldly responsibilities, because he had such good intentions, such good motives, and he was really feeling himself the servant of the people. He was receptive to God's grace. And in that grace, he began to think that this body's going to die. The living force, the soul, is real life. Without the soul, the body's just a corpse. The soul's taking shelter in a body for a little bit of time to do something within this world. But the purpose of life is to realize our eternal existence. And as he was meditating in this way, by God's grace, the beauty of bhakti, the beauty of the form of the Lord, was consuming his heart. He became so much deeply spiritual. At one point, he was thinking that without the association of saints, living in this world is like being in the gallows with a rope choking your neck. Without the association of saintly people riding on my royal elephant with all the insignias of royalty is like being enveloped by a circle of blazing fire. And then he cried out, like Vibhishan of the Ramayana. He was willing to sacrifice everything and anything to get the shelter of Lord Ram. He left his kingdom for Ram. But interestingly, after some time, Ram sent him back to be the king. He said, like Vibhishan, I will go to Srirangam to take shelter of the Supreme Lord Ranganath. I will go to Tirupati to worship Sri Balaji. I will go to Panchipuram to worship Sri Varadraj. He just wanted to go to see the Lord, to surrender himself to the Lord and to be with devotees. He started inviting great saints, great bhaktas to his kingdom. Now his ministers, they didn't know what to do because they loved him. Nobody could rule the way he could rule. Nobody had the power of the faith of the people like he had. But he wants to leave. And his ministers were thinking, if he goes to visit Sri Rangam and he starts associating with Vaishnavas there, he'll never come back. And then what happens to us and our whole kingdom? Somehow or other we have to keep him here. So let's bring as many devotees as we can here, that every time he starts leaving for Sri Rangam, they'll come and he'll have to serve them. And then he'll never leave. So he was always surrounded by devotees. Every time he said, I'm going to Sri Rangam tomorrow morning, some devotees would come and say, I've just come to your kingdom. And he would give them prasad and please tell me Hari Katha, let's do kirtan. Please bless me. And this day, the days and the weeks and the years were going on. And he was absorbed in constant absorption of loving feelings toward the Lord and his devotees. King Kulasekhara, by the grace of God and through the wisdom of the scriptures he was hearing, he understood, according to the Sri Sampradaya, worshipping a pure saint one day, one gets the same result as worshipping the Supreme Lord 60,000 years. He had the Vedas, the Puranas, the Itihastas, the Bhagavad, the Mahabharata, all these being read and recited and discussed. And he made a special regulation in his own life every day to hear from the Ramayana. And as he was hearing, it wasn't just a theoretical thing. Some of us, we read the Ramayana because we have to give a class in the Ramayana, so we're taking notes and thinking, I hope I could remember these things. So some people, they read the Ramayana and it's, you know, to their children to help them go to sleep. Some people read the Ramayana because they'll get some pious credits or because they know their grandfather and their great-grandfather and their great-grandmother and their great-great-great-great-grandfather and grandfathers, they will be benefited and they will be happy because this is what we're supposed to do, because we're Hindus. Some people because they really want to develop devotion.